Hi, my name is Robert Miklas, and I'm here to talk to you about new hiring in LAPD Police Department. My opponent has claimed that the new hiring in LAPD Police Department is unnecessary. My opponent has stated that for three reasons, that fact. The LAPD has already been oversized. The second reason, the forces of the LAPD are not well utilized. Third, hiring more officers will increase the budget to run the police department. These three reasons I will now go over and examine the evidence supporting them, the reasoning to them, and support it or counteract it with my own claims. The first one, LAPD has already been oversized, was based on two things. First, an article by Bill Sanderson of the New York Post saying that New York is the safest of all cities and is safer than Los Angeles. Now, if you take that statement and compare it to the U.S. Bureau of Census data for 2008, and you take the populations of LA and the numbers of officers in each city, you find that the citizen-to-officer ratio of LA is about 1 officer to 395 citizens. Now, the ratio in New York is 1 officer to 223 citizens. These are the actual numbers. What my opponent has stated was that the population of New York was about 19 million. Now, that's the population of the state of New York. The city of New York is about 9 million, which caused these ratios to be skewed. Now, if these ratios are skewed and you take the earlier article by Bill Sanderson, you find that New York is safer, it has less police officers to citizens, therefore Los Angeles is oversized and not well utilized because it has a lot of excess officers. Now, that undermines the first two claims. LAPD has been oversized and it's not well utilized. Now, according to the FBI crime census, the second point of it's well utilized is not correct. It is well utilized because over time, since about 1992, the crime rate has gone down. If it was not well utilized, the crime rate would go up or it would stay about the same. The third point, hiring more officers will increase the budget run to the police department. This is correct. If you hire more people, it will cost more. My opponent has reasoned that one option that you could do is the police officers that are in the desk jobs should be put on the street to lower crime. More police officers on the street causes lower crime rate. Well, if you take the police officers from the desk jobs and put them on the street, you have to hire more people for the desk jobs. This undermines my opponent's main claim that new hiring in the LA Police Department is unnecessary. Even if you move the police officers, you have to hire more people, which causes a bigger budget deficit. With these, one other statement that I would like to add is my claim that it is necessary. Between 1992 and 2006, in the LA's crime statistic data found on their archives online, violent crimes have decreased 65%, and the number of officers have increased from about 7,700 to about 9,500. Now, this shows that an increase of officers has an increase in safety for everybody around you. Now, there is more than one way to fix a budget deficit, and I do not believe that hiring less people at the cost of public safety is a proper solution to the LA budget deficit. That's why I feel that the new hiring in the LA Police Department is necessary to provide safety for all the citizens and taxpayers who pay for it. Thank you.
All right, Robert, I thought that it was very well organized, easy to follow. You follow the structure of the advocate clearly. You label those points as you get to each one. On the first point, I thought that you had a good analysis of what the statistics mean. You did a nice interpretation about the ratio of police officers in New York versus in Los Angeles, and an explanation about how the population was misunderstood. And if you take the city itself proper, that the ratio of police officers in New York to citizens is 1 to 223, which is a much better ratio than in Los Angeles, and therefore that would be an explanation about why it's the safest city in the world. In other words, here's proof that there's a correlation between higher number of police officers per citizen and lowered amounts of crime, which is not the conclusion that the advocate got because they misunderstood what the numbers were. You got a little confused in the explanation there, but the numbers were pretty straightforward, and it was clear what your inference was, even though the language was a little awkward. You had that awkward transition to the second point. Your explanation about the crime rate was okay, although you didn't really provide any data at that point, but later on you did a good job at providing some data. I'm not sure why that information is coming at the end of the speech and wasn't plugged into the second point. And then on the third point about the impact on the budget, I thought that you had a pretty good explanation about how you're going to have hiring for some people anyway. There's not any comparison about what the salaries would be or how many people would be necessary to replace police officers who are working behind desks or desk jobs, and whether or not you could do such a transfer. For instance, there might very well be jobs that people have to do in the police stations that require somebody who is a uniformed personnel or somebody who's a sworn officer as opposed to simply a civil service job. There are all kinds of things, handling evidence, for instance, or taking reports and those kinds of things. So if you have police officers who are simply doing filing, yeah, those people could be replaced. But if you have somebody who's working at the desk, taking phone calls or doing dispatch, you might need to have people who are sworn officers. And I think that that's one way that you could maybe challenge the claim there a little bit more. I thought you had a very nice summary at the end of the speech, and except for that little bit of confusion when you were trying to explain the first point, that it was very clear. Thank you.